It took exactly 43 seconds. I counted, from the moment she clinked her glass to when every guest in that living room was staring at me like I was the villain in her movie. No warning. No argument. No private talk beforehand. Just Ren, standing on the ottoman in a red velvet dress, like a queen at her own coronation, raising her voice and saying, "I'm done pretending. I don't love him. I never did." The room froze. Some people gasped. Others sipped their drinks like it was theater. And me? I stood there holding a plastic plate of mini quiches, feeling like I'd been hit by a bus made of glitter and betrayal. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She smiled. That's what gutted me. She smiled as if she just won something. Like this was the final round of some secret competition she'd been playing in her head. And I was the grand prize she didn't want. But I didn't crumble. I didn't beg. I laughed. Loud. Too loud. I lifted my glass and said, "Best day of my life. Who's ready to celebrate?" People laughed, nervously, awkwardly. A few clapped. They thought I was joking. But I wasn't joking. Not even close. Because here's the part she didn't know. I already knew about the guy. I already knew about the hotel in Austin, the fake yoga retreat, the second phone line under her maiden name. This wasn't a breakup. This was an ambush. But she forgot who she married. And she had no idea I had already prepared my counterstrike. And as the playlist shifted to a remix of Dancing on My Own, I slid my phone out of my pocket and quietly hit send. The moment I hit send, I felt it. Not peace, not yet, but the kind of calm you feel before a thunderstorm rips the sky in half. The message went to 4 people. Her sister, her boss, the hotel concierge, and one very specific contact buried deep in her phone under the name Carmen. Spoiler, her name's not Carmen. See, while Ren had been choreographing her little breakup performance, probably rehearsing in the mirror for days, I had been building a folder. Screenshots, voicemails, timestamps. Nothing illegal, just truth. The kind of truth that burns bridges and sears reputations. Back in the living room, people were awkwardly sipping their drinks, pretending they weren't watching our private implosion happen live. Some looked away. Others didn't even try. Ren stepped down from her ottoman throne like she'd just dropped the mic at a concert. She walked past me, didn't say a word, just brushed her shoulder against mine like she was swatting away something disposable. That's when I spoke. "Did you want a round of applause, or?" She stopped, slowly turned. "Excuse me. I'm just saying," I said, my voice louder now. "If this was your big moment, you probably should have waited until after I leaked your affair playlist to your boss." Her jaw twitched. That's how I knew it landed. Affair playlist. Yeah, that's real. You ever find a Spotify list titled My Quiet Mornings with Him? It was filled with acoustic covers and piano ballads, and one jazz song called Hotel 414. That also happened to be the exact room number she'd stayed in 3 times last month while visiting her aunt. She always underestimated me. Thought I was too boring, too soft, too passive. I work in data systems. I notice patterns. And Ren was full of patterns. Emotional distance followed by sudden joy. Long showers and short tempers. Quiet guilt layered under fake affection. The kicker? 1 week before this party, she forgot to log out of her iCloud. I wasn't even trying to snoop. It just popped up. A message from someone saved as Carmen saying, "He'll find out eventually. Let me be there when he does." So I decided, fine. Let her be there. Let everyone be there. She wanted an audience? She just didn't know the second act wasn't hers. She didn't speak. Not at first. Her face froze in this half-smile, half-wince expression like she couldn't decide whether to act confused or furious. Around us, the room felt like it was holding its breath, everyone pretending to be busy checking their phones, but all ears tilted toward us. "Affair playlist?" she finally asked, her voice all air and venom. "Oh, come on, Ren," I replied, not even bothering to whisper anymore. "You think I wouldn't notice when your music taste shifted from Fleetwood Mac to desperate piano covers overnight?" She scoffed and turned to walk away, but that's when someone said it. Not me. Not her. Jenna. Her best friend. Jenna had apparently had just enough Prosecco to let something slip. "Wait," she said, blinking slow. "You mean Theo?" The whole room stiffened. I saw it happen, the exact second Ren's spine locked up, like someone had poured cold cement down her back. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She turned to Jenna with eyes that could have melted glass. Jenna immediately clapped her hand over her mouth and backed up, as if she could rewind the moment by sheer force of embarrassment. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to, because now I had a name. A real one. Theo. Not Carmen. Not a mysterious silhouette. Not a theory. A human being with a name and a connection to my wife that was suddenly very real to everyone standing within earshot. The music was still playing, but it felt distant now, like we were underwater. Ren looked at me, not with rage, but panic. Her carefully choreographed breakup had just been hijacked. The audience was no longer watching her performance. They were watching mine. She took a step forward. Elliot, we should talk outside. I smiled, because I'd been waiting for that line. That line meant I was winning. That line meant she was no longer in control. No, I said, lifting my glass again. Let's stay right here. I think your friends deserve to meet Theo too, don't you? For the first time all night, Ren had no comeback. And in that silence, I felt something shift. Not just in the room, in me. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. But I wasn't done. Not even close. You know that moment when a room full of people tries to act like they're not watching a car crash in slow motion? That was exactly the vibe. Conversations had fizzled into awkward murmurs. Nobody knew whether to step in or step out. And Rin just stood there, frozen, caught, humiliated. I didn't need to push further. The damage was already done. But I wasn't just after humiliation. I wanted the truth. And she still hadn't said a word about Theo. So I made it easier for her. Go ahead, I said, not even pretending to hide the edge in my voice. Tell them who Theo is. Or should I? Rin blinked rapidly, like she was trying to fast forward through this moment with sheer willpower. Then, just as she opened her mouth, the front door creaked open behind us. And there he was, dark gray jacket, sloppy smirk, holding a half-empty bottle of white wine like it was a bouquet. Theo. The irony. He looked average. Nothing about him screamed dangerous, seductive, or even remotely charismatic. Just another smug guy who thought charm meant wearing a leather bracelet and quoting indie bands no one listened to anymore. Ren's entire body tensed. Jenna muttered something that sounded like, "Oh my God," and literally backed into a ficus. I just stared at him. No rage. No yelling. I didn't need to. He walked in with that stupid confidence, probably thinking Ren had already taken care of me emotionally. Maybe even imagined I'd be gone by now. But no. There I was, front and center, very much still standing. His eyes met mine for half a second before he tried to play it cool. Hey, is this, still a party? I didn't answer. Ren did. Get out, she said quietly. Theo, leave. Her voice was different now. No performance. No smugness. Just sheer panic. Her carefully orchestrated freedom speech had collided headfirst with the reality she never expected. The man she was leaving wasn't broken. He was prepared. And Theo? He clearly hadn't been briefed. What's going on? He asked, but even he sounded unsure now. His tone cracked. He wasn't used to being called out in a room full of strangers. He wasn't used to being the punchline. I stepped forward, slow and calm. You're the guy who's been helping my wife discover herself, right? Jazz playlists. Austin hotel rooms. Room 414 ring a bell. His face went pale. He opened his mouth, closed it, and then looked to Ren like a lost child. She didn't save him. She didn't say a thing. And that's when I realized she never planned to bring him into the light. Not really. He was a secret she used to feel powerful, to escape the boredom of her own life. But now, exposed, she looked small, embarrassed, powerless, and I hadn't even shown my final card yet. For a solid 10 seconds, no one moved. Theo just stood there like a glitching NPC. Ren stared at him like she could mentally erase him from the room, and the rest of the party had fully transformed into an audience. Quiet, unblinking, addicted to the drama they had not paid for, but now couldn't look away from. This was no longer a breakup. It was a reveal, a live confession unraveling without a narrator, except me. And I was ready to flip the last page. I pulled out my phone. Ren noticed first. Her voice cracked. Elliot, don't. I tilted my head slightly, like I was confused. Don't what? Send the video? Because it's already uploading. Her expression shattered. That's when a few people, mostly her friends, pulled out their phones too. Notifications were lighting up in real time. Every group chat, every social circle she had tried so hard to manage, control, and impress was now receiving a file labeled simply, Ren's real life. MOV. It wasn't revenge porn. It wasn't anything illegal or cruel. Just truth. A harmless compilation. One that included a calendar showing her trips to Austin and the matching hotel bills, a screen recording of her Spotify playlist titled Hotel Mornings, and, most damning of all, a voice memo. Her voice. Soft. Whiny. Intimate. I know he suspects something, but I can't stop seeing you. It's the only time I feel real. She sent that to Theo. And now everyone she tried to perform for had heard it. Phones were buzzing. I could hear the sound of people pressing play with shaky fingers. Ren's face was drained of all color. Her carefully painted lipstick suddenly looked like a costume from a failed audition. Theo finally muttered, "You recorded her?" I turned to him. "No, genius. She recorded herself. I just pressed play." At that moment, Jenna stormed into the kitchen, mumbling something like, "I need a drink or a priest," and two more guests walked out the front door like they were escaping a sinking ship. Ren followed them with her eyes, desperate, trembling. She turned to me, not angry this time. Not dramatic. Just broken. "You planned all of this." I didn't blink. "No," I said. "You planned the public humiliation. I just made sure it wasn't mine." She opened her mouth to respond, but her phone buzzed again. She looked down and froze. I knew what she saw, because I'd CC'd her boss. The one who had strict ethics policies about workplace relationships, and the one who, coincidentally, Theo reported to. This wasn't vengeance. It was documentation. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in years, Ren was speechless. And for once, I had all the control. The air in the room had shifted. You could feel it, like that thick, silent pressure before a lightning storm. Ren wasn't speaking anymore. Theo looked like he was trying to melt through the floor. I'd expected that. I had planned for that. But what I didn't plan for was Jenna. She'd disappeared after muttering something about holy water and vodka, but now she was back, and she didn't look drunk. She looked done. "I'm sorry," she said, loudly enough for everyone still lingering to hear. "I can't stay quiet anymore." Ren's head whipped toward her like a snake sensing movement. "Jenna, don't." But Jenna was already halfway across the living room, eyes locked on me now. "You don't deserve this, Elliot. You never did." I blinked. She'd always been Ren's most loyal friend. Her inner circle, the ride or die. But right now, Jenna was standing next to me. "I knew about Theo," she said, her voice wobbling. "Not everything, but enough. She made me promise not to say anything. Said you'd explode if you found out, that you were too fragile to handle the truth." I almost laughed. Fragile? That's what she told them. Ren looked like she wanted to disappear into the carpet. "This isn't your place, Jenna." "No," Jenna said, stepping closer to her. "You made it everyone's place when you turned your breakup into a performance." A few people gasped. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about manipulation. Ren hadn't just cheated. She'd engineered a spectacle. And now the crowd she summoned was turning on her. "I told you to be honest," Jenna continued, voice rising. "I begged you not to humiliate him like this. But you wanted drama. You wanted sympathy. You said people would rally behind you if you spun the story first." Ren's eyes were glassy now, flickering with panic. She whispered something, but Jenna didn't care. "I'm sorry, Elliot," Jenna said, looking back at me. "I should have warned you. I just didn't think it would go this far." It was surreal. Watching Ren, who had once controlled every room she walked into, stand there stripped of all pretense. No script. No spotlight. Just silence. And it wasn't me who'd ended her show. It was her own co-star. I stepped toward Jenna, nodded once. "Thank you for saying it out loud." Ren didn't follow me as I walked to the kitchen. Didn't chase. Didn't speak. But Theo? He followed. Not with words. With something else. Because what he told me next changed everything again. I didn't notice he was following me until I reached the kitchen sink. I was rinsing my hands. Don't even ask why. I just needed to do something when I heard the footsteps. Soft, hesitant, like someone entering a church they didn't believe in anymore. Theo stood a few feet behind me, still gripping that wine bottle like it could anchor him to this reality. "I didn't know she was married," he said quietly. I turned to face him. His eyes were wide, glassy, a little too sincere. "You're kidding," I said flatly. He shook his head. "At first? No. She told me she was separated. That she was living with her husband for financial reasons, but that it was over. Said you were like a roommate she couldn't shake yet." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. She said you were controlling, he added. That you'd make her feel guilty any time she tried to be herself. I laughed. Just once. Sharp and bitter. Let me guess. She told you I didn't understand her. That I was cold, too practical. That I shut her down every time she talked about dreams. He nodded slowly, realizing something too late. Yeah. I leaned on the counter, suddenly exhausted. Not because of Theo, but because I'd heard those exact lines before. From her. During arguments. Therapy. Even dinner. Word for word. She had a script. She'd used it on me for years, to justify her own detachment. And now she'd weaponized it on someone else. He took a step closer. I'm not defending her. I swear. I didn't know. I looked him in the eyes. But you kept seeing her after you did. He said nothing. And that was answer enough. Silence hung between us like static. He shifted his weight, guilt oozing from every gesture. Then he said something I didn't expect. I think she's done this before. That froze me. What? He nodded again, slower this time. You're not the first guy she's told that story about. Her ex before you. She told me he was abusive. Said he stalked her. But I saw a few of his messages. They didn't sound abusive. They sounded desperate. I stared at him, heart thudding in my chest. She uses people to escape people, he said. And when the story stops working, she just replaces the characters. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The party was dying out behind us. I could hear the front door opening and closing. The guests were scattering like ash. Theo exhaled hard. Look, man, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed you to know I'm not proud of any of it. He started walking away, but then he stopped at the doorway and said one last thing. She's going to spin this. She'll cry. She'll say you exposed her, ruined her life, invaded her privacy. But deep down, she knows you gave her a taste of her own game. Then he left. I stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by fading voices and empty glasses. And for the first time, I realized this story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about control. And Ren had just lost hers. The party was over. Not officially, of course. There was still music humming through the Bluetooth speaker, still half a bottle of sangria sweating on the counter, but the crowd had thinned, and the tension had turned to ashes. Most people slipped out without saying goodbye. A few offered awkward pats on the back, eyes darting anywhere but mine. Ren never followed me outside. She stayed in the hallway, sitting alone on the bottom stair, staring down at the phone in her hands like it had betrayed her too. Maybe it had. I walked past her slowly, and for a second, I thought she might say something. An apology, a plea, a spin. But she didn't. And that silence? That was the real end. No more performances. No more manipulation. Just a woman watching the final scene of her own story play out, and realizing she wasn't the author anymore. That night, I didn't go home. I went to my brother's place. Slept on his uncomfortable couch. Woke up to the sound of his kids playing Mario Kart at full volume. And for some reason, it felt like peace. In the days that followed, I didn't rage. I didn't post. I didn't spiral. I rebuilt. I unfollowed. I blocked. I deleted playlists. I called a lawyer, signed papers, and mailed them without a second thought. But I also went back to doing something I hadn't done in years. I started writing again. Short stories. Little pieces of fiction. Turns out pain makes you creative, but healing? Healing gives you purpose. Last week, I took a solo trip to Oregon. No destination. Just me, a car, and a coastline. I watched the sun disappear behind the cliffs one evening and realized something wild. I didn't feel bitter anymore. Not angry. Just grateful. For the lesson. For the freedom. For the fact that I didn't let her rewrite me into a victim. I wrote the ending myself. And now? I think it's your turn.